track. So this one's going to come back into Norman, and that one's liable to come back into Norman as well. There's Crossroads Mall right there. You can see the precipitation lightens up considerably once you get north of I-40, and the North Metro is in pretty good shape right now considering, but the South Metro still getting very much hammered by very heavy flooding rainfall and very large hail and very intense lightning. Let me show you the warnings that we do have right now. And there's no tornado warnings here at all severe thunderstorm warnings, but still upper end. The tornado watch does continue, especially to the south and east, but no tornado warnings are in effect. Let's go to Weather Recorder 2. And we're going to take a look at this tornado which caused all the damage. This was a freeze frame here from Mark Dillard. That's one of the suction spots in the overall larger tornado. And this is the one that caused the double fatality and the extensive damage. It was in rural areas. It also hit some lightly populated areas out south of El Reno and then out by Banner along I-40 where it tracked down I-40. We had that double fatality there pretty close to Banner. And then it lifted, that tornado lifted about 2.5, 3 miles west of Yukon. That lifted. Then, of course, we had the additional tornadoes in the South Oklahoma City area. So you want to hit play on that, Steve? So we'll just kind of hit play here, and you can take a look there.
This one will be from Reed.
Okay, and that's from Reed Timmer right there. So that was earlier this evening. You know, we don't have to tell you what that is. You know exactly what that is. That's from Reed Timmer. Again, this is not live.
It hit a barn, it knocked out a bunch of power poles,
this is not live.
It's a violent tornado back there, and this thing is getting stronger, getting bigger, getting wrapped in rain. We're going to get east of it and then drop south and get in front of it, but this is a tornado that we do not want to intercept. This is big. This is a very violent tornado. People in the path of this thing need to be underground. They need to be in their tornado shelters.
Pretty remarkable. The debris ball at one point was about 1.75 miles wide. We had a 1/4 mile wide eye in the middle of that from our Doppler radar network. It was multi-vortex. It was certainly capable of producing F4 damage. It might have even potentially been capable of producing F5 damage. This is another, again, this is not live. This was earlier this evening as it really developed into a large wedge multi-vortex violent tornado. This is responsible for 2 fatalities earlier today on I-40 when the tornado tracked down I-40 and killed apparently a mother and a young child in their car on I-40. You can see there it's wedge-shaped. Reed's quite close to it. The hood of his Dominator was ripped off. It was literally ripped off. Reed was looking at his engine in front of him out the front windshield in the Dominator. It ripped. He was so close to it. At one point, when it made that violent turn, it almost grabbed him and ripped off the hood of the Dominator. Physically ripped it off. He doesn't even know where it went. It's been ripped off. Amazing video of another violent tornado here in central Oklahoma earlier this evening from Reed Timmer and Dominator 4. So right now there are no tornado warnings in effect, but upper end severe storms with a very serious flooding issue, as these are still like boxcars on a freight train here on a track that won't move, and they keep developing out to the west and coming back in. So Meg and Kev, the big hail is going to continue in waves. They're going to come in waves. These all have golf balls with them. This one has some tennis balls and near baseballs here. This one also has golf balls to tennis balls here over to the east, Seminole over in Seminole County. So huge hail here, huge hail here, big hail here, big hail here, and big hail here. All golf balls here, maybe a little bit bigger. So they're going to come in waves, and every time one of these waves comes through, as you know, that water is going to come right back up again. So all travel continues to be completely discouraged in the metro until this moves by, and right now it's 9:35 at night. We're not exactly sure when that's going to happen. It could be another hour or two.
All right, Mike, we appreciate that. Just got handed this. This goes about what you've been saying, Meg. Oklahoma City Police Department is urging everyone to stay inside. They are saying do not get out and help right now. Emergency workers cannot get to the injured. They aren't assessing damages right now. They're just trying to get help to people that need it. So we all need to stay off the roads as much as possible.
And, you know, in some areas it's clear and people are thinking things are fine. But as we keep showing you, there are parts of the area that it's still pouring rain.
They've got power lines
down. They've got power lines down. It's just a nightmare. So this is not over yet. We want to go live to Southwest 89th and Penn, where Latasha Gibbons is at that on cue. And Latasha, what's the latest out there?
Well, Kevin and Meg, I was told this station just ran out of gas. And when I say we've been here a short time, I've seen more than about 200 cars come through. Take a look at all these cars piled in. I don't think I've seen this many cars at one station since the blackout, when there was actually a gas shortage, which is the problem here now. Inside the store, it was actually closed earlier, but the manager reopened and allowed people to come in and purchase things. This door, which you can't see it right now, but we brought it to you live earlier, was actually busted in because people were so afraid. They wanted to get here before the tornado came in this direction. Inside all of these cars, their families, people with their children and their pets, they've gone in to buy food and they just plan to stay here. They're not sure if they have damage to their homes or if they're going to have power when they get back home. And take a look on this side. Traffic is moving again, but you know what? It is very dangerous because all of the street lights are out. And in the past about 10 minutes or so, we've seen 4 ambulances go north on Penn. We're not sure what's going on, but definitely something is happening because 4 of those ambulances rushed that way. On this side, there are people waiting to see if they're going to have any more gas because some people have been driving around all over the metro trying to get away from the storm, and they simply ran out of gas. No word yet on if the station will have some more. But again, the manager has been very accommodating, and the people who have come in and out, they just talk about the hospitality of the clerks and the managers, allowing people to camp out here and again, bringing in clerks so they can reopen to serve their people in this area. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Latasha, thanks. Great job out there. We'll get back to you for more updates from that side. We can also tell you Oklahoma Emergency Management is confirming at this point 2 fatalities. Tragically, a mother and a baby who were killed out there on I-40. Also, 75,000 customers without power. And they're saying at this point the damage is not that bad, but that could change as they continue to survey the areas that were affected by the storm.
And again, until we have daylight, it's going to be hard to get a real take on that. We do want to go to some video now that we were sent. This is from Classen and I-44. And this is
a river
drainage ditch. And one thing we know here in Oklahoma, flooding can be a big problem. And when you see this, you know, people, you got to really be careful. If you're driving, don't drive into it. Don't do it.
Looks like whitewater rafting there. That is one of the drainage areas, of course, that is used by the city to get the waters off the road. You can see the steep sides to it right there. But that is how much rain we had, Meg. In just a matter of a couple of hours, Mike was reporting a half a foot of rain in some areas, and that's the result.
Yeah, and that can cause its own problems, and that's where we want to keep kiddos away from from all of that. Tomorrow when they go out to play, this is where we can get some grave situations. So be aware.
Absolutely. Courtney Francisco, I believe, is our next stop here.
That's right. Let's go live to Courtney Francisco. She is on the phone. Courtney?
Yes, I'm at South Highway 81 and Southwest 15th Street in El Reno, and homes are destroyed out here. It looks a lot like Moore did, except the homes are more spread out. We've already passed by 4 that it looks like have been destroyed in this tornado. And then as you're driving down the gravel road that is Southwest 15th Street, you have those power poles, the wooden power poles, just snapped in half like they were toothpicks and thrown around, and debris everywhere, power lines down everywhere. And then we started to turn toward the emergency lights because we can see some fire truck lights out there, but we tried to turn toward them and it was flooded. We could not get down there, so we did not go through the water for our own safety, but we are headed back now to the houses that were destroyed, and it is a lot of devastation out here in El Reno.
We'd really hope that we wouldn't have to report on that type of damage, but it sounds like you were seeing that in that area.
And I guess you have nobody's come out to talk about any injuries or anything, Courtney, or have you talked to any of the folks in that area?
No, actually, I talked to some firefighters that were parked up on Highway 81 near I-40, and I asked them to direct me towards damage, and they had been out here, and they did not, they were just sitting there waiting to be told what to do. The houses that are damaged, and I'm going to talk to one of these people here that it looks like owns this house that has pulled up right now. But yeah, there's no one out here but us. No firefighters, they're further down.
Well, Courtney, we'll check back with you and maybe you can give us an update on some of the people living in that area.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Courtney. Scott Hines standing by on the phone as well. And Scott, what can you tell us?
Hey, Meg. Well, we are downtown Oklahoma City negotiating downtown streets We're at Robert Kerr and Hudson. There's a parking garage right there. I believe it's the Metro parking garage. I'm not sure. I can't see the sign. But there are cars that are street level, and then on the levels above ground are fine. They haven't been touched by the water up here. But there's a below ground parking garage. And I'm looking at a Jeep right now, and this Jeep is nearly completely submerged. I would say that there's standing flood water, probably almost to the windows. The water is just swallowing the Jeep. And we were told there was a bystander, someone who stopped us a few blocks over, and said there were a few more vehicles that appeared to be submerged. So we're dealing with that right here at Hudson and Robert Kerr. And then just a few blocks over, I believe to our west, there is a Goodyear tire and automotive repair shop. And at one point tonight, I would say it was probably an hour ago, hour and a half, there was probably several feet of standing water, and I have a picture that I can forward you guys. Right now, I apologize. We don't have livestock, so I'm only able to communicate with my phone. But there was standing water, and the garage is jam-packed with cars belonging to customers. The water, though, at this hour has dissipated. It has subsided. So, and there's no real way to tell whether or not those vehicles sustained any water damage, but that's definitely never a good thing. Also, at there's an apartment complex. I believe it's called the Legacy Art, maybe Legacy Quarters. It's right there. I think it's 6th and Hudson in that general area. But there's several businesses that are on that street level there, and that's right across the street from this automotive service, this Goodyear outfit. And so we saw several people. I don't know. I surmise they're employees, but squeegeeing the water out. And so at this point, it appears the cleanup mode is underway. And the only other thing to report, I received an email from the Barron's organization, and as Galen had mentioned earlier, I guess there was an evacuation to the tunnel below ground. Those people have since gone back to their vehicles and navigated their way home. That game, we're being told, has been postponed until tomorrow. I'm not sure of the time, but I believe it's game 4 of the Western Conference Final for that division. So that has been postponed. The streets right now, we're seeing I would say an unusual heavy flow of traffic at this hour for downtown, especially on a Friday night. So just a slow, steady flow of traffic, but it doesn't appear that the roads, any of them are impassable. It seems that everyone's moving along fine, and we've seen maybe a couple ambulances, fire engine at one point, sirens blaring, kind of speeding through, but to this point, very minimal damage, as we've been reporting, and the floodwaters, at least from my view, it seems as if those have subsided.
All right,
so
great.
We're going to continue to kind of monitor things, and we'll talk to you in just a bit.
We appreciate you doing that. That is helpful. Thank you, Scott Hines, reporting live. He's at Robert S. Kerr and Hudson downtown.
Let me show you some video from earlier this evening. This was Emily Sutton, our meteorologist here in the morning and storm chaser. Just take a look and listen.
She got a little close to the storm. She's storm tracking, doing her job, but this is right after it turned, I believe, and it started coming her way. They're backing up, and I believe this is around the time in the area that Mike Bettis from the Weather Channel had the issue with his car, where it was flipped and looked just flattened.
And you could hear Emily earlier say we are in some very strong wind. And what happened here, they're backing away from it because they're so close, and you can see the trees just bending to the... Yeah, exactly. The trees
flow into the tornado. Yeah. Look at that. So the wind is at their back, blowing out the front windshield, if you will. Look at the inflow, and look how fast that tornado just made a move. and then the whole thing expands and literally tries to come out and grab them there. Look at that. That's exactly what happened. So that's the phenomenon that we're talking about when it made that rapid turn. It looked like it was basically under control, and all of a sudden, look at this turn that it made, and the inflows at their back blowing out the front windshield. It's trying to push them into the tornado. It's amazing.
Right, it's trying to pull them in. It actually blew out the back windshield, Mike.
It did. Blew out their back windshield.
Right, and you can see the trees just bending to the will of that inflow that you were talking about. And there's the damage.
There's the picture.
Yeah, we got somebody out there talking to Emily and getting a shot of their little one next to the blown out back windshield. We're just glad everybody was okay during all of that.
So Mike, explain again, were they being sucked in? Is that why she was working so hard to get out?
The tornado will inhale and exhale, and what it did is the whole thing just got bigger really fast, combined with the fact that it made a violent turn really fast. And you know, if you watch that, you know, you saw that actually happening. It looked like it was a little ways down the road, you know, they're backing up, you know, everything's okay because they're a little outside the circulation. All of a sudden it made this turn right toward them, got bigger, and all of a sudden stuff started flying through the air. So they're actually physically on the outside of the vortex itself. And it looks very much like it was, you know, an F4 tornado, and it may have potentially been able to produce F5 damage.
Oh, well, we're glad
That's another one of those really big ones.
Oh, boy, it really was, Mike. And before we went to Mike, we showed you a quick shot.
Picture,
Let's show it to you again. This is the Barons locker room. Our hockey team in the finals here, and they had to call off the game. They had to evacuate the Cox Convention Center, and take a look at the water that came in on our guys there. And boy, you can tell, Galen Culver said earlier, may have had some damage to the roof there, and that's why the water got in, as you can tell.
And those, as you know, the people at the game went to an underground parking garage, and Galen said there was a lot of flooding down in that garage as well. So these rains have really caused a big problem all around, including right there in our downtown and right there for our hockey team. And they have I know they have a game. They're hosting games tomorrow and I think Sundays, so they're going to have a lot of cleanup to do.
They do, and it's water everywhere right now in the metro area. And we showed you that drainage area there on Classen and I-44 just gushing. It looked like a whitewater rafting event or something. That's how much rain we've had here. There it is again.
Yeah, half a foot of rain in some places is what Mike is saying. That is 6 inches of rain. And that rain, that water has to go somewhere. So here it is, and that means it's going to be pouring into all the avenues, the tributaries and everything throughout our city. And we spoke about really a little bit earlier, you really need to be careful tomorrow when you're out and about and you're letting your kids. I think tomorrow's going to be a pretty nice day, and when those kids are out playing, though, that does not mean the high waters are gone.
Exactly. And Mike, 6 inches of rain in a few hours. 6 inches of rain is more than we get during the summer sometimes, man.
It sure is.
All those months of summer.
Yeah, you got that right, Kevin and Meg. And here's let's go to weather show here. This flooding's not going to go away anytime soon. And it is, in addition to some more golf ball size hail still left to go too. But the flooding is not going to go away anytime soon. So these severe thunderstorm warnings are going to continue in effect for quite some time, and the flash flooding warnings will as well. Let's go to the storm tracker, and you see this this boxcar like a freight train on a railroad track effect. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and notice how they're just not moving. If anything, they're lifting a little bit more to the north. They're lifting a little bit more to the north, so Lightning Creek's going to get back into the real heavy rain as well. And, you know, you might be talking about rainfall totals. It wouldn't be impossible to get rainfall totals up around 8, 9 inches before it's all said and done. I mean, it's going to be just an incredible amount of rainfall. And this is going to cause, you know, do we dare say some historic type flooding in the South Metro? But if it doesn't change very quickly, as long as these keep developing like they are, and our computer models say that they're going to make an effort to keep doing this for quite a while, there may be, you know, we can say potentially historic type flooding, talking about, you know, getting up toward record levels of flooding. And recall before the drought started, we had record flooding about 4 years ago now, especially in North Oklahoma City did too. But this potentially could be one of those really historic flooding events if it isn't really there already. And these storms keep developing out to the west, so we really would continue to highly discourage any travel tonight We just wouldn't, because, you know, these water levels come up so quickly. They come down, they come right back up, and you don't want to be driving through high water. So these are all severe. South of El Reno, north of Union City, severe south of Yukon, north and over Mustang, severe storm over all of Moore, even southwest Oklahoma City, and down through North Norman, and a big severe storm now over most of Pottawatomie County from Shawnee all the way down to Wanette and Asher. Big severe storm there, and a big severe storm over the northern half of Seminole County. Seminole, and we woke up through Cromwell down I-40. So I-40 is not good to the east. I-40 is not really not very good to the west, because these storms are trying to lift on to the north. So these are going to be lifting up toward toward the Village and Nichols Hills and north of I-40 the way it's going. And then we may potentially get some fairly large hail north of I-40, which generally we haven't seen too much, at least not in the past couple of hours, north of I-40. We did earlier when the tornadoes were coming through, but the bigger hail may try to lift to the north of I-40 up into North Oklahoma City, around Oklahoma City University, and even as far north potentially as the Village and Nichols Hills and War Acres and Bethany. So there's a definite movement of this to try to lift further to the north, deeper into Oklahoma County. So flooding is by far the main concern. However, additional large hail coming in waves is also, Kevin and Meg, a major concern. And we don't really see this pattern changing, at least I would say for the next 2 hours or so. And it may go on longer than that. And the rainfall rates are running about 1.5 to 2 inches per hour. So somebody's going to get, somebody potentially could get, don't hold me to it, but somebody may get 9-10 inches of rain out of this. What is that, BGAN? Let's go to BGAN 1. There's the tornado there with Reed. Wow. Holy mackerel. That's Reed again. It's a carousel of tornadoes. You know, he was talking multi-vortex. You see how fast those are moving. We can't get a hold of Reed because all the cell service is jammed, but I'd love to talk to Reed right now about tornado suction spots and tornado vortex motion and things like that, because Reed, Reed is a doctor. He has his PhD from OU, and that is phenomenal video. And Reed and I have had a lot of discussions, texting back and forth and talking on the weekends and stuff. We think the wind inside of these vortexes is really, really high, way over 200 miles an hour in some cases, maybe even up in the 300 mile per hour range. And so the whole thing is a tornado. You see it up near the top of your screen. The whole thing is a tornado. And then underneath, those are all multiple vortexes so the whole tornado has winds, say 100 to 125, and then the suction spots, the winds go up over 200 and may go up in the 300 mile per hour range. Because of the friction near the earth, the wind speed's actually the fastest down near the earth. It's in a layer just above what we call the friction layer, where the surface of the earth slows the wind speed down. Just above that layer, the wind speed gets very violent and very fast. Talking about, there's Reed right there. Reed, we're looking at your video of the carousel of tornadoes, and it's really remarkable. Tell us where you were right there.
Yeah, that was just west of El Reno Airport when it first really started touching down, and you could tell it was going to eventually become a wedge, and those suction vortices, those violent suction vortices underneath. You could see just the rapid motion, and it went from having those suction vortices, the carousel you're talking about, and then it wedged out just to the east and grew to a half-mile wide before it became rapid rain. And I believe the next circulation was the one that went through South Oklahoma City, and thankfully from what we saw, it looked like it was mostly down trees and more of a weaker tornado, but there's major flooding. We saw like 2 to 3 feet of water and halfway up cars. Like, we almost got stuck in Oklahoma City there a few times. So, and our hood blew off the Dominator just after that shot. But
Reed, what do you think? Of course, we're still looking at the damage. Of course, we have 2 fatalities. What do you think about the wind speeds inside this tornado today?
Well, I mean, I think that the enhanced Fujita scale is a totally damage-based scale, but based on the rotation and that rapid rotation, those suction vortices, I easily could see wind speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour. And there are some theories that in those miniature suction vortices that the winds right near the ground could be 400 or 500 miles per hour even. And that's why you have one house that'll take significant damage, whereas the house next door will be untouched. And that's why we built the Dominators, to get right up close and not inside those tornadoes and try to measure the pressure falls and the wind speed inside those suction vortices. And that's our ongoing mission. But our number one priority is keeping people warned in the path of the storms and working with you and running the ground troops underneath the storm. And I think you saved a lot of lives today.
Reed, tell me, the hood that got ripped off the Dominator there, that occurred just a little bit after this video was taken here. Is that right?
Yeah, just after the video was taken, we went east and then started getting some significant easterlies. And there was a power line that was actually across the road. And we were driving, and it got caught on the front end, and then we backed up, and it pulled the whole entire hood off in the easterlies. And so we're going to have to go back and get the hood tomorrow. But I think the Dominator 2 has definitely taken a beating over the last 4 or 5 days. But then we came across some chasers that, were in the path of a tornado without an armored vehicle, which is very dangerous. And we saw one person with some cuts, and the Weather Channel crew was okay. Mike Bettis, a good friend of mine, thankfully went down there, and he just had some minor cuts, and they were taken to a hospital, but we helped them carry all their equipment up, and then went east and saw there was a house that was destroyed. There were all emergency vehicles on it with propane leaks. And then we went east and tried to catch the Oklahoma City storm and get ahead of that, but the rain and flooding was so bad it must have been just a rain-wrapped circulation and everything. And then we started worrying about all our friends in Norman and everything, too. So we tried to get down there, and it was just crazy. It shows you how fast, when all the ingredients are in place, that a storm can go from having nothing to a violent tornado on the ground, like that one in El Reno. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the people that were affected by these storms, but I hope that our collective coverage helps save lives. And if any lives can be saved, it's well worth it every time.
I'll read that motion on those vortexes is just absolutely violent. It's remarkable video. One of those vortexes was whipping by at easily 150 miles an hour.
I agree. And the vortex was translating at that fast, and each one had its own rotation. So it's easy to see that inside those suction vortices, who knows what the wind speeds could get to. And that's why we want to get those high-resolution radars on top of the Dominator and surround them. And one day we'll try to figure out just how strong those wind speeds can get so we can better build homes to withstand those types of structures. And those real intense vortices are inside those big wedges, too. You just can't see them. But in this case, as it was forming, it was a perfect visible, you could just see them. It's the most perfect depiction of suction vortices I've ever seen. And when you saw that violent motion, you just really worried for the communities out east. And we knew El Reno Airport was out there. We knew that Union City and areas south of Yukon and all those rural areas. I just hope that they were tuning in and were aware of the warnings, because we were following that storm for a long way, the whole entire Kfor storm team, and saw Emily Sutton out there, and she saw another tornado on the back storm, and it must have been tough to keep up with all those warnings, but I think that it's very fulfilling going out there and providing that ground truth underneath the storm for you guys and helping out the warning process the best we can.
Hey, Reed, let's talk about here for a minute. Let's talk about when it made that violent turn. And that violent turn caught a lot of people off guard. You saw that happen. You're reporting about it. And apparently it ran over some folks when it made that violent turn. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, and I believe that was as the tornado was occluding, or when they start to rope out. And a tornado of that size, it's kind of like the Greensburg tornado. They'll make those left turns and just sit there and spin, and then they'll slowly die out. And I think that this tornado did that left-hand turn, so a lot of people were waiting for it to move from west to east across the road, and it looked like it did that violent turn to left, but it was moving east-southeast, so that left-hand turn probably caught a lot of people off guard, and that's why storm chasing, you got to stay back, unless you got an armored vehicle with spikes that go in 5 inches into the ground, and the worst-case scenario is we can lose a hood, but it wasn't from wind in this case, and the Dominator was definitely vibrating quite a bit. We definitely felt the ears pop and the pressure fall. And we're reporting a tornado that close. You can see the violent motion. And I think that using the Dominator gives us that unique perspective up close, so we can assess visually how strong those tornadoes are. And that, as you said, the motion in those suction vortices is some of the most violent tornadic rotation I've ever seen, from close range. And we felt completely in controlled situation being just north of that tornado.
Reed, apparently, you know, the Weather Channel's storm tracker vehicle was hit and the car was crushed. Mike Bettis is okay. Do you have any more information about that?
Yeah, as soon as we went up there, it must have happened right after we got there. And I ran right up, and, you know, Mike Bettis is a good friend of mine, and, you know, he just had a couple small cuts, and they're pretty shaken up. But I gave Mike a couple big hugs, and, you know, these tornadoes are unpredictable, and it's happened to all of us. And they're out there trying to stream live video and help people out in the warning process, too. And I'm just glad everybody was okay in that incident. And then another storm chaser came up to me, and he said he had more serious injuries, and he looks